Good evening. My name is Anja Lütje. I'm the Group Director of Rooms and Quality Service for Mandarin Oriental Hotel Group. And for me, Beekeeper, when we started rolling it out, and it's, I think, 2 years ago that we started talking, is a real passion because I saw the need in a global organization to break down barriers, particularly in our Asian properties where the hierarchy of communication was very strong and we needed to break it as part of our culture. And I really saw that Beekeeper could do that for us, and it has.
To set the stage, I'd like to start with Anya and Jen. If you guys could tell us what you guys are doing within your organizations when it relates to internal communications and HR.
We really very much look at the vision and mission of service delivery for our colleagues, and that's our core, and that's where the culture starts. On the communication side, we really were a little behind time. It was all email related. The young generation were not allowed their mobile phones. They were locked up in the locker. And that has changed. And like I said, the success has been really good, but we also do still, for the office workers, use an intranet. So we use SharePoint, and we have an integration between Beekeeper and the intranet. So we have really the best of both worlds. And we also do have a lot of colleagues that have no smartphones. And for those we have in our, we call them our dining rooms, the colleague dining rooms, because we don't call it cafeteria because they really are very nice dining experiences for our colleagues. We have stations with workstations where they can still connect to Beekeeper even if they don't have a smartphone.
What communication trends do you see in your organizations today, and how do you see them evolving?
So we see trends on the guest side. Guests want to text message much more. We see that in Asia, in Europe, we use, different apps for that. And we are enabling our systems to actually integrate all sorts of choices of communication to be able with our systems to reply back. I think overall in the industry, hospitality, unfortunately, has always worked in silos. There's a system for reservation, there's a system for property management, there's a system for PBX, and now we're really at a crossroads of merging all of this together and really look more, communication on a service bus. And so that's on the guest side, we're seeing major demands of being able to handle that. And that also then means for the colleagues that, they would like to be communicated to how they communicate in their personal life. And that is the mobile, that is, kind of the social media feel to it. And, we found this a lot. I think in Asia, as I mentioned, our colleagues were really the young generation were quite upset that the managers were holding back on sharing information. And in Asia, culturally, that's quite ingrained in the older generation to, manage that way. And it's really amazing of how Beekeeper has helped to break this down. So I give you one example. I know I'm out of time, but we had a general manager in Asia who said, we will roll out Beekeeper, but only managers can post. We're like, why? That's the whole point, But anyway, he did. And now he moved to another hotel in Asia, and we said, what are you going to do? And he said, everybody can post. So, they learned the lesson, and I think the demands from the colleagues were very strong. So,
what forms of communication are you guys using right now that you think will be less impactful over time?
For us, it's email. I think we're really seeing a reduction in email because people are, just messaging themselves. Meeting has moved here, let's go there. Less of phones. Our desks are now phone-less. Less of that.
As things shift operationally, what do you expect to change with the digitization of the non-desk workforce?
To me, I think the work that is much more paper-related, like all the paperwork will ideally be automated. And in a way, a lot of people are very nervous about this. I think in the hospitality sector, it's actually great because it allows us to go back to the roots of really caring for the guests, because all the paper and behind the scenes work can really be done through automation and be done very quickly and with ease. So, we have to check our guest profiles in the back office before arrival. We double check their preferences. And if all of that is automated, it's so much easier to then interact and give that emotional connection that really, when you look at technology, I think there are two things that technology in an automated AI environment can't do very well. That would be the emotional empathy and connecting with the guest on that level, and creativity. I think really to capture innovative ideas, creative ideas that our colleagues have by interacting with guests and each other, that is something that, I think will stay very much to the core. But AI will help us with all the, paper-related work knowledge.
In your two businesses, I mean, guest satisfaction is huge, and making the customer happy results in repeat customers, repeat business, and obviously sales. So, how do you see digitizing the non-desk workforce? How have you already seen it play into the guest experience, into the customer experience, and how do you see that evolving as we move into the future?
So to build on what was just said, we have a program in Mandarin Oriental called the More Wows, and we really are inspiring our colleagues to look for opportunities to wow a guest. Many hotel companies do it. And we actually saw hotels opening their own stream. So I give you one example. We had a guest who was staying in one of our hotels. She arrived by limousine. The doorman opened the door, and she had a Kindle, and she dropped it. And the doorman just got it before it was hitting the ground. And she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I was so engrossed in reading this book. It's so good. I almost wanted to go and get the hard copy." And the doorman said, "Oh, no worries, and check it that it's okay," and took her up to the lobby for registration. And she had a great check-in, went to her room. Well, that evening, the doorman went to Barnes & Nobles and bought the hard copy of the book, brought it in the morning with a handwritten note that guest relations wrote for him, but in his name. And the hotel now posts these MoWow stories on a stream. It's a MoWow stream. And what it does is not only does it make the guest feel, wow, she was like, I want to see the GM, I want to say thank you. So the guest felt amazed. The colleague was, really, really proud. And by posting it, you actually could see the journey of this MoWow. So here was an idea. I interacted with the guest. I had an idea how I can delight the guest with a MoWow. This is what we've done. Here's the book wrapped up. The next thing you see is the thank you note from the guest, and the guest standing with the doorman, hugging him on the way out, and that's, the completion. And then the guest survey that the guest filled in, obviously being delighted or going on TripAdvisor. And so you can see and model the journey, which then inspires other colleagues. And we find a great advantage of inspiration from colleague to colleague is that, they cheer for their peers. So that is one, real example of how we have used it for guest satisfaction, but also for the engagement of the colleagues.
To keep this all moving forward, if you took away the constraints of budget and bureaucracy, what are the 3 wishes that you two would have for internal communications?
From my perspective, if I had a big checkbook and the wish list was open, it really would be integration of systems and having one platform where all integrators can go, and it would make sense, and to the point of personalization to then personalize. So I give one example. As I mentioned, we have a separate reservation system, a separate property management system, separate. Everything is separate. When, for example, we have quality assurances, we have undercover mystery guests that come to our properties and they fill in reports of what standards were missed and where we have opportunities. That would be one way of where integration would come in really well, that we could actually, as the manager, personalize to one colleague or a group of colleagues specific modules of training in that area based on the knowledge that we received back. Everything is manual for us today, even the preparation of guest arrivals. It's a quite tedious process because it's 2 systems. Yes, they have an interface, but there are still things that have to be done manually. So that, I think, is if we had one platform where all integrators could join from, that the information is given so time gets freed up, that we can have more development for our colleagues and development where they want it, maybe even self-driven development through making courses available. That really would be my wish.
So in the audience, we have a number of internal communications, HR, and culture professionals. What advice would you give to them as they're pulling together their future strategies for their work?
I think internal alignment. I think a lesson that we learned is that our IT department had a goal the goal was not really aligned with where the vision of the company went, but they had a goal, and the goal was, let's roll out an intranet. And so, when we came and we said, well, actually, we have something that's maybe a bit better than that, there was a lot of pushback. And so I think the change management of, getting people to understand the future, and if you have somebody who's goal-driven, they have a goal in their own department, which is not aligned to where the company is going, you need to know that in advance and address it before you embark on, the good rollout of new technology.
What I really love about Beekeeper is that it really has a tremendous positive impact on our colleagues. I would like to share a very specific story. We were in a rollout on one of our properties, and we had a colleague who is deaf, and they asked me when I was doing the explanation of what Beekeeper does and how we roll it out, to look at him so he can read my lips. And when he realized what Beekeeper can do and he had downloaded the app, his eyes lit up and he started to send so many messages. And the first message was, I have a voice now, I can connect with all of you. He sent pictures of his daughter, of his work and his pride. And to me, it really just shown what a tremendous change and impact Beekeeper can have to individuals. It really changed his life because he was now really connected to all his colleagues, and everybody was immediately answering back and was delighted. There were tears in the room. It's a very moving testimonial to how powerful Beekeeper can be. I'm really excited about two things, the better integration and the work on integrating with other systems, and the chatbots. I think the chatbots are going to be very, very helpful to our HR departments in saving a lot of work that they usually do with answering emails. So I'm really excited about those two developments.